So thrilled to be here tonight because I do love independent bookstores like this. It was independent bookstores like Broadway Books that gave my book a chance to find good homes with all of you. And so that's why I had to come to the Pacific Northwest, because oddly enough, it seems that people in the Pacific Northwest have some kind of rapport about my story about living on the Long Island Sound. I don't know what that exactly is, because now that I've seen where you all live, my life is, in scale at least, tiny compared to the kind of, we have hills, you have mountains, I mean, it's epic mountains, the coastline, everything, the scale is just something that I couldn't even have imagined. I'm thrilled to be here tonight, and I'm going to tell you about my journey as a writer and an artist, because I did get the book published when I was 52 years old, so obviously I am not a prodigy. But I figure if I tell you about my journey, maybe my story will resonate with you also. And I hope at the end we can have a discussion if you have any questions about the publishing process or what it's like to get an agent or anything else, personal problems, whatever. I love giving my opinion. So I also want to congratulate you all. You have all made it through the rapture. So we are here tonight in peace. And I have to say, this is my Pacific Northwest outfit, by the way. I was in Seattle. I flew into Seattle 10 days ago, and I was in town for an hour when I saw this at Pike Place Market. And I said, I have to have it because it has always been my dream to find a bathrobe I could wear out in public. This is, of course, 100% Seattle fleece. I think it's very stylish, although, oh, well, thank you, because some ladies of style in your neck of the woods have told me they have a love-hate relationship with fleece. You know what, you wear it 11 months of the year or something? But I'm going to take it home to Long Island and show this off, and everybody's going to be insanely jealous that I got to go to Seattle and come back looking like I belong in the Pacific Northwest. When it came time to illustrate my book, I said, I'm going to run around my backhand. I have never illustrated anything. I don't know, I knew I couldn't do beautiful full-page illustrations like I've seen real professionals do, but I did know I could do one thing. I could doodle. So, that's what I started doing. I was going to start small. And this is the exact size of my canvas, my first canvases. This is the piece of watercolor paper that I started painting on. I brought another visual aid for you. It is almost exactly the size of a Triscuit. So, I call these paintings my Triscuits. Now, that is not to say that just because it's little, that you can't get a lot of information in a Triscuit. And all the illustrations in this book are the actual size that I painted them. They were not, miniaturized. So you will see I have quite a lot of Triscuits in my book. This is the April chapter. This is rain. I had absolutely no idea how to do rain. So I went to the library, pulled out, a lot of artist books, saw how they did rain, gave it a try in a little Triscuit, and then I put them all together on a page. This is all the different ways I know how to try and paint rain. I don't remember them. I do remember this is David Hockney. That's the only one I remember right now. Eventually, I did just look out the window, and this is just rain on the window. It's a windy, rainy day. This is just a lazier, rainy day. But again, that's how you start with working with Triscuits. And here's some nighttime Triscuits. I said I had never painted night before, so I just did a few experimental pieces. And I know I have, these are some in January. I lost my bookmark, but these were some of the very first ones I ever did. This is a whole page of just experimental winter Triscuit scenes. And they're not complicated, and then if you put them on a page, they look kind of neat together. I mean, anybody can do this, and if you mess up, big deal. It's a little teeny tiny piece of paper. Screw up 40 of them, and you still haven't, wasted a whole tablet of paper. So there's no risk in that, right? Tips is to know that right now is the best time to do any kind of creativity. Secondly is to know yourself, no matter how uncool. Just know what kind of writer you can do. You can only write what you write. That sounds so obvious, but really, I am the senior writer in my full-time job. I work with younger writers, and they always try and write like they're 50-year-old literature professors. And I'm saying, you can't fake it. You can only write who you are. So go for it. Just do it. And thirdly, start small. That's no problem. You can do that. Anybody can do that. When it comes to boring, you can make boring sound so thrilling, and it's not that hard. For instance, the J. Peterman catalog does nothing but, create these wonderful, wonderful short stories, every page, and that's why I love them. And a lot of people think I'm joking, but the novelist Amy Bloom got her start writing copy for Peterman catalogs. And one of my favorite Peterman catalog stories is about a white terry cloth bathrobe. I mean, what can be more boring, right? Which I feel like, in the bathrobes of life, I'm basically a white terry cloth bathrobe. But the Peterman catalog describes it like this. They call it the road not taken. I always wanted to cross the Sahara and the Gobi by foot, but I didn't. Excuse me. I did not swim the Hellespont. I didn't ascend Mont Blanc. Didn't read all the books I had to read. Ached to fly a Ford tri-motor anywhere, even to St. Louis, but didn't. Did not modestly decline the Nobel Prize. Didn't spend one night at Shepherd's Hotel in Cairo. Not one. Shepherd's burned to the ground before I could afford to check in. That night, it became my code word for everything unobtained, undone. In case there are a few things in your life you wanted but didn't get, I offer as consolation the impossibly perfect night at Shepherd's Hotel in Cairo bathrobe. $145. It's a white terry cloth bathrobe. 127 words. And, I mean, he has me, he drops the right name, Sahara, Gobi, Mont Blanc, Nobel Prize. And then he gets me, he's saying, I can address every regret in life by buying this bathrobe. I want that. And if you can do that in your art journal writing, turn it into a story. Don't do a caption, because here's a caption for you. There's a French company called Leron, and they make a bathrobe that's $1,350. And this is how they describe it. Our 100% silk robe is fully lined in soft cotton terry, shawl collar, patch pockets, fabric belt, and belt loops. Mid-calf length in ivory and pale silver. And they want $1,350 for that. When for $145, I can feel better about not winning the Nobel Prize. So that's what I do in my workshops. I tell everybody, I'm sure when you got dressed today, you put on something that you either love or hate. Let's face it. Sit down. I want you to tell us a story in 100 words about something you're wearing. And you'd be surprised the wonderful stuff that comes out. And when I was a Fabergé expert, like I said, I started out as a jewelry historian, and I would write about jewelry, and I was a jewelry appraiser. And so people would hire me to go through their jewelry boxes, because they're splitting it up for the kids. Is this emerald ring worth 1 or 2 strands of pearls? That kind of thing. I could help them. But I would tell them, all right, the kids want your jewelry. They do. But they want your stories. Go through your jewelry box. Tell the stories about those pieces in it. You will never run out of stories. It's there. And that's the catalog mentality. The thing about trees also is that, the older you get, the more you realize how accidental life is, how happenstance it is. Happiness is ephemeral, and the fact that, you and I are here is just accidents. And we all know this. We all have seen lives, pretty humdrum lives going along fine until they change in a day. It could be a diagnosis. All of a sudden it changes. And you can start to feel a little weightless, a little inconsequential. And that's another reason why I go hug trees, because you put your arms around that and you are holding on to something that grounds you to this earth. And it's very meaningful to me. It's very rejuvenating. And I love it. So that's my third travel tip, is just go out there and hug a tree. Mark Twain, in his day, was much better known as a travel writer than a novelist. He wrote a couple books about traveling to Europe, and they sold in the hundreds of thousands. And people in his days traveled to Europe because they wanted to see something called the Swedish sunset. That time, because of geography and climate and latitude, everybody thought the best sunsets were in Sweden. So if you were doing the tour, you had to go see the Swedish sunset. And this is what Mark Twain had to say about that. And it resonates with me because I live on the North Shore of Long Island, And there are 20 million people in a 40-mile radius from where I live. 20 million. My husband and I will go look at the sunset on the shore on these beach areas, and we have the place all to ourselves. And we're wondering, where is anybody? And this is what Mark Twain said about that. He says, happiness is a Swedish sunset. It's there for everyone, every day, but most of us are looking the other way. So that's why you have to go out and see the sunset, just to make sure you're faced in the right direction. And my fifth travel tip for staying put is to go get a midnight snack. One of the travel truths that one of the biggest travel truths in the world is that people travel to foreign countries to stare in fascination at the kind of people they ignore at home. And I have found that true. When I travel, I like to feel, I am walking on the wild side. I am Vivian Swift, let loose in the world. I'm hanging out on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh when the pubs close, and everybody's, 1, 2 a.m., everybody's heading to the fish and chip shops to soak up all that greasy food to ward off the hangover. And in Buenos Aires, around 3 or 4, that's when these roadside grill stands show up. God knows what they're grilling on them, but I'm strutting out there thinking, yep, this is me in my element. I am living the wildlife. And, in Paris, just go out for a bowl of onion soup at midnight, right? That's how you know that you are really getting the cross-cultural experience. Well, where do you find that kind of experience at home? And I'll tell you. It's when you go out and get a grilled cheese sandwich at 2 a.m. And you go to your local 24-hour diner. That's where I will sit, and I'm looking at people. They're in my neighborhood, but these are the people I never have any contact with because they're living these incredibly exotic lives. They're either taking a lunch break at 2 a.m. or they're deciding this is where they're going to work out very complicated domestic arrangements, I love it. You never know who you're going to overhear. I remember listening to some woman on the cell phone saying, oh, yes, I've got to go to Vietnam tomorrow, so I'm trying to get on the right time. So she's trying to stay awake, living on Vietnam time. And sometimes I just love the way it feels to be up at that hour of night. It's not my normal habit. So like I said, it'll get me out of the rut. I will just draw what's on the table, or I'll listen to the music, or I'll try and overhear something. I always come away with a story or something, and it does me good. So she gave me some books, and with those books came this crafts catalog. This crafts catalog saved my life for 2 years. Because when you're young and on the Sahara, you can open it up like this, and here's a scene. It's woodland friends. There's a mallard duck, there's a raccoon, there's a pheasant, there's a squirrel, a little brown bunny. Terribly exotic when you're in the Sahara, and kind of comforting. Yeah. And I could go through, and there's, here's monarch butterflies. Here's a waterfall scene. Waterfall in the Sahara? I would just look at these pictures, and I was just taken out of myself. And the great thing about it being a catalog is that I could open it up at any page and read a few stories. The captions are meant to grab your attention, pull you into the world of this one little image, and, they're very good at it. You're going to want to buy it. So they have little tiny stories, woodland friends. They've gathered at the water's edge in this beautiful nature scene. Tiger walk, our tawny tiger striped in black powerfully stalks his jungle path in this stunning long stitch. I would just get lost in these little stories. And they were like, it's like a chocolate box. You never know what you're going to get. Every page is different. Sometimes I could just look at the pictures. I could go front to back to front, read a page or two. Like I said, open it up. So that's how I decided to create the book I did, because this is the reading experience I wanted to share with everyone. So my book is like that. You can open it up at any point. You can just look at the pictures. You can read it back to front. Pictures.